today is all about the aquaponics. I need to get in there, I need to change the water in the grow bed because the water's starting to go downhill, and I need to make some changes as far as what plants I'm growing in there. So as we step into the greenhouse, I made some changes in here. We basically flip-flopped everything, mirrored what was in here. So everything in this corner used to be over in that corner and vice versa. Made this move, flip-flopped everything as a means for more efficiency, because when I come into the greenhouse, I'm always coming through this door with dirt, and to try and minimize the amount of dirt that I track everywhere inside the greenhouse, the table's far better over here in this corner than it was on the other side. And the way everything else kind of comes together, it just seems like there's so much more open space in here. So I'm liking the change that we made. But here we are with the aquaponics system. Fish are covered up, they're doing good. And we've got tomatoes in here. I can't remember when I planted these tomatoes. These were like cuttings that I just pulled and put in here. Maybe August-ish is when I did this. And here it is, January 30th, and I'm still eating tomatoes. I've added 0 supplemental light to this, and these are strawberry tomatoes. And I mentioned before that I had these outside, but I much rather have them in the aquaponics. I like how they take in the aquaponics system much more so than how they do outside on their own. And I don't know what this tomato plant is. It's a random cutting that I grabbed and put in here. But anyway, here we are at the end of January. I'm still eating tomatoes, but at this point the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So they're slowly ripening, but there's not enough to make it worthwhile, because I've got a tray of kale and lettuce starting to come up, and it's time to transition more to my greens. So I'm gonna pull all this stuff out, change the water in here because I've dropped a ton of tomatoes in there. So that's not good for the system. I can't have stuff rotting and decomposing in this water, because ultimately whatever decomposes in here goes into here where the pump is, and then that nastiness comes over here where the fish are, and it's just, I gotta keep things good for the fish. So what I wanna do is open this up, take these plants out, and I'm kinda gonna go back to the raft system here throughout the grow bed area, and I'll get some kale and lettuce going, and we'll be doing that for a while in here. This way of growing, I don't think that I would do this again. However, I do have all this lattice work here with these strings and whatnot coming down. So I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but I'm gonna leave this here in case I do decide to grow something and wanna have some kind of structural support. I can still use these strings and these pieces of pipe to give me some kind of stability in the future, depending on what experiments I jump into. I don't think I'm gonna repeat this again with the tomatoes, just because there's so many things that dropped into the water. For instance, you can see this tomato here starting to rot, and I got a couple of these ones. They've fallen into the system, into the water here, and they've been in here for a while. You can see all kinds of, it's just bad. There's lots of rot going on in here. And what essentially that does is these things that are decomposing suck up the available oxygen that's in the water, and from there what happens is it creates anaerobic zones, which make it hard for the plants to grow and make it hard for the fish to survive in. So anaerobic zones are like the big no-no when it comes to aquaponics, and it's definitely time that I got in here and did all this. And then I'll show you guys the root system here that we had for both these tomato plants. They at one time, you know, they look pretty terrible right now, but they were thriving a while back. But you can see it's all brown and green, and the roots, they've just ran their course. It's time to chuck these by the wayside. I got a sump pump going, taking all this water, getting it outside. But another thing that I've got to take care of is the roots from those tomato plants were grabbing onto my air stones, and then upon removing the roots, I kind of messed up my air system going in here, so I'm gonna have to rehook up my lines to my air stones. And you know, I found at this point, running this system, every 8 months to maybe a year, I need to kind of come in here and do a major water change. If I had a bigger filtration system and maybe some grow beds, media beds in here, that might change a whole lot of things. But for me to keep this system running the way that it needs to run, with the size that it is and the way that everything's going, I got to do a water change every couple of months. It's just the facts of what this thing is. So I got the grow bed back together. I got all the air stones back where they're supposed to be and reconnected. And I still got to put the raft beds on, but I'm not going to get to that point today. Today's just going to be all about getting the water change and getting it back and having everything running. So we got that cleaned up. I've got the water changed in the filter itself, and then the sump tank kind of overflew on that, but hard to tell with the reflection, but I got that cleaned out as well. And now I kind of am going to trying to do as much of a water change in here as I can. I know this is a pretty extreme water change, but it needs it really bad. So as I've got the water going in, at the same time I've got a pump going out. So that kind of helps disrupt all the sediment that's at the bottom, trying to get what I can out of here. And I'm starting to see the fish. I haven't seen these fish in a couple weeks. The water's been that bad as far as clarity goes. So anyway, it's starting to look pretty decent again. This took a couple hours. It's hard to see with the reflection and all, but the water in the fish tank is 1,000 times better. The filter's better. The sump tank's looking good. The grow bed area's looking good. This is as far as I'm gonna get for today, but the next video I'll start getting some plants in here. See you guys.